Hello and welcome to the Business Made Easy show. I'm your host, Fiona Hall. And the Business Made Easy show is a show that I've put together for people who are running a small business, who are going through the growing pains. Their business is getting bigger, they're making some good money, but there's certain areas of business which they just don't have the knowledge in and they need more help in. So I go out and find experts and bring them into the show to interview them, to give you tips to make business easier for you. And today we're going to be talking about the topic of HR. And I know for most small business owners and for myself, when I've been through the journey of hiring people and using contractors and even virtual assistants, it's quite a nerve-wracking experience. But putting your trust in someone else to deliver to your customer, it's a really big jump for most of us. And most of us who start business are a bit of a control freak. So having to let go of the control about how something is done can be quite a big step for us. So I'm looking forward to delving deep into this topic, and I've got some great questions from the community to put to Jason as we go through today. So the Business Made Easy tribe, also, if you don't know about it, there's a Facebook tribe, a community. You can come and join and ask questions. Monday to Friday, you get input from me about making business easier. So if you haven't already, follow the show notes and jump on that link and come and join us. Now, before we get into HR, I'm just going to give you my nugget of wisdom. And it's about templates. So templates allow you to create consistency across your business. So it allows you to look more professional. It means that you're consistent about the information you're actually sending out to people and the information you're collecting back in. There's nothing worse than having to call someone up and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to get this, and then doing it multiple times. And I know myself, when I first started out, when I didn't have my templates set up, I often felt like a bit of an idiot, because I had to call someone up and I'd already got the information, but I hadn't had a way to capture it. I hadn't had followed a form or followed a template and collected the information in the way that I should have. It also allows you to keep your brand consistent. If you spent all that money in getting a beautiful brand created, you've got your website, you've got your social media, you've got your email signature file. If you don't have your brand and the way that you speak and your template set up to reflect that, again, that really impacts on your professionalism and it impacts on the way that people perceive you in your business. So spend some time figuring out what information you need to send out to people and what information you need to collect. Just stop and slow down, especially if it's the stuff that you do repeatedly. So, for example, external communications, you might look at things like your basic signature file. You can create many versions of that depending on the types of responses that you have. So if you have a specific product that you sell that comes in via a certain email address, have an automatic reply set up to go out in a template form. Make life easier. Don't rely on having someone to check an email account to get the basic response set up and for bookings and things like that. Check into where you can automate things and create a template. The other big one, the big one that I notice and I help a lot of clients with is your sales forms and questionnaires. So what kind of questions do you need to ask your clients in that lead sales prospecting stage? What do you need to capture? What's important to qualify that person as a potential client and to make them feel confident that you're the expert because you're asking those really intelligent questions because you are the expert. Then the other thing is newsletters as well. You know, I've seen people who've got beautiful branding, everything, and then they send a newsletter out from MailChimp or some other program and use a default, and it just really muddies their brand. So think about getting them set up there too. For your internal communications, this is where we're like talking about HR documents here. I'm sure Jason will speak to this as we get in. Make sure all your HR documents, if you're using manual systems, like a leave request, or your employment contracts, that kind of stuff, make sure your brand's on them. Make sure that it looks like part of your business documents. Your manuals and your training materials for your team, again, that's part of your business collateral. It's your intellectual property. If you wish to sell your business at a further date, well, you've got a branded, beautiful manual to pass over, operations manual or office manual. It will give the potential buyer the confidence that this is a really professional business, that it's easy for them to step in and to do business with you. So therein lies my lecture about templates, and they are something that is worthwhile spending a bit of time on and just nutting out what information goes in what order, because that can really trip you up. So now back to the guest. This week it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Jason from MyHr. And as usual, I've gone to someone's LinkedIn profile and had a wee look at what he has to say about himself. So Jason's the co-founder and co-creator of MyHr. It's a SaaS HR service giving organisations access to quality, customised HR support. And he launched it in 2013 with a prototype and then released the full service version in 2015 with 300 business users and over 3,000 employee records for organisations in New Zealand, Australia, the UK and Singapore. So a true Kiwi success and entrepreneur, eh? Australia, UK and Singapore. So he's obviously got out into the world and created something which is great for us all to learn from. The service is unique and was created out of desire to revolutionise HR and change the quality and the delivery of HR everywhere. He's previously worked for 14 years in large-scale geo-dispersed corporate HR positions for Shell, Hinkle, Sky City, Dick Smith, Progressive Enterprise and Woolworths in NZ, UK and Australia. And I recently met Jason through the Teed network over a coffee, and we sat down, had a really good chat about business and realised we had really similar values about business and about customer service. So welcome, Jason. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So Jason, we're going to go across 3 topics today. The first one will be changes in employment law, which everyone needs to keep up to date with. The second topic will be performance reviews. Are they really dead? Or do we wish they were? It might be another question.
A lot of people do, I think.
And then the impact of technology and how that is going to change HR practices for us as employers. So tell me about the changes that are coming up in employment law, Jason.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, here in New Zealand, this is New Zealand focused, not on Australian or UK or Singaporean employment law. Those are all quite different jurisdictions. So certainly for Kiwi businesses under our new coalition government, there have been some significant changes signalled. Some are already happening. And so, for example, that is the change to the entitlement to paid parental leave and the increase to the minimum wage. That one particularly is of real interest to me. So on the 1st of April this year, the minimum wage will jump to $16.50. That's the adult minimum wage.
Yep.
But more importantly, what they've done is also signalled 3 successive increases to the minimum wage, which will get it to $20 per hour from April the 1st, 2021.
Wow.
This is the first time I can recall, and I'm not super old, but I'm a lot older than some of the grads that work for me. I don't recall there ever being a 4-year sort of signal increase. It's normally an annual thing.
Yeah.
And now I think the trick here, and the thing I'd like to cover for employers is don't be fooled if you're not a minimum wage employer. This will have an effect on all businesses in New Zealand. And so often people go, well, you know, we only have 3 or 4 staff. We generally pay our people around 17 or 20 bucks an hour. We look after them. They're not minimum wage employees. The scale of this increase means that suddenly over time, the rates that you pay will be affected by this. The minimum wage will grow and therefore relativity has an impact. Relativity is quite important.
Yeah.
And for example, $20 an hour is a pretty typical 2IC supervisor type rate. It translates to $42,000 a year as a salary. And in 3 years' time, that will be the entry level wage. So someone who you have in a supervisory or second in charge type position is not going to want to be earning the minimum wage because they could do the entry level job and not have all the responsibility. So there is a knock-on effect. And even in professional services, you know, often graduate salaries, grads will come in, start on 40 or 45K for the first few years. Again, this rate will be, or 40 grand a year will be below the minimum wage anyway. And so there is a knock-on effect. So my advice to employers is consider wage relativity.
Yeah.
The other big changes that have been signalled but not yet passed into law are around the changes to the 90-day trial period, union access to workplaces and collective bargaining. And again, my caution here is for employers not to just exclude themselves and think, well, we're not a unionised environment, I'm a small employer. Some of the things proposed around what they call the MECA, the multi-employer collective agreement, you could find yourself being scooped up into an industry-based collective agreement unwittingly. Union access to workplaces might be increased, so you might find people knocking on your door. And so knowing how you handle that and handle the access to the workplace is important. I mean, trial periods, what they've signalled is 19 and under employee businesses will be able to continue using the trial period, and those that employ 20 or more people will not. This has not yet been passed into law, so I'm getting lots of questions about when is it happening, what do I need to do to prepare. What I'm saying at the moment is government submissions opened, I think, late last week, maybe Thursday or Friday last week, and they close next month. They need to, the select committee will consider all of those submissions, they'll make a decision, and then they will inform us which parts of these changes will be implemented. So at the moment, great Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy advice is don't panic, let's just wait and see what happens. And if it does happen and you employ 20 or more people, there will be some changes you'll have to implement, but we will fall back to the old probationary period, and process and good quality induction will become critical to managing. So that's a sort of headline. We could talk for ages about law. Obviously, there are lots and lots of interesting things going on, and even current legislation that's been in place for a long time where there is repeat non-compliance. And so to close out the topic of employment law, the one that still to this day surprises me, and Fiona, you mentioned sort of having good quality documents, is that I still encounter employers that do not have signed written employment agreements for all of their staff. Now, there's a $20,000 fine for that if you get audited by a labour inspector. It also makes it really difficult to make changes to a person's job or to manage performance if there are no established terms. In many Kiwi businesses, we operate pretty casual. It's a handshake. It's the kind of, hey, mate, you know, come work for me. This is what I'll pay you. You look like a good dude. Let's get going. That is really, really risky. And to put it in context, it's been law in New Zealand since 2000. On the 2nd of October 2000, when the Employment Relations Act replaced the Employment Contracts Act, it was law to have a signed written agreement. The fine is relatively new, although it has been in place, I think, for maybe 5 years now. So, and often when I read the labour inspector reports and they find all sorts of issues around non-compliance for immigration or holiday pay, one of the things that still stands out is a lack of signed employment agreement. This is so easy. And this is not a pitch for my business, you know, we can do it, but the ministry give them to you for free, you know, there's no expense for it. You know.
What do you think stops people from doing that, from you know, signing the documents and you know, sitting down and giving a copy to the employee, you know, having 2 copies, signing both, one for them to keep, one for you to keep, that's right, that's the way you do it.
So that's a really, really good question, you know, and I think some of it is cultural, just that kind of Kiwi attitude of she'll be right, definitely, that's what I observe. Some of it too is, I think, a lack of, I guess, understanding of the impact of not getting this right. I've never done it before, I don't need to do it again, and we're all okay. I think in some cases, employers have this misunderstanding that by putting these things in writing, they're going to impose a whole lot of restrictions on themselves. They feel like there's like a negative effect on them and their business, which is completely correct, because the things that are in the employment agreement apply in law anyway. You're already covered by that stuff. So you want to make sure that you've covered it on your terms. And that's the value of a good employment agreement. You meet the minimum standards in legislation, but there are a whole lot of things that you can establish on your terms. If you work in an industry, for example, that has high occurrence of drug abuse or drug issues, you want to have a really good, robust drug testing policy. The law doesn't require you to have that, but you can implement that. If you're in an industry that is very sensitive around intellectual property, you want good quality, robust clauses around protection of your IP. Restraints of trade and non-solicitation clauses if you are worried about your employees leaving and taking customers. There are so many things that you put in there that will protect you. And I observed, I think, that some employers actually think it goes the other way, that the contract will create restrictions for them. And I think for others, they just don't have the time. They just look at it and they go, this is complex, this is hard, I rang my lawyer, he's going to charge me $2,000. So I went to the free one at the ministry and it looks like it's going to take me an hour to do it. So, you know, we take time to get our accounts right, and we engage accounting professionals to help us do that, to pay taxes and to balance the books and whatever else. We just need, I think, to adjust and adapt that mentality now to employment practice. Because it's more and more important. It's a maturity thing. Certainly I notice in Australia and the UK, there's less resistance. It's just a given, you know, in the same way you need an accountant when you start your business, you need someone to help you with your employment records and documents. It's part of the compliance framework of running a good business. So, you know, For some Kiwi businesses, they just don't seem to see it to that level.
Do you think it's an age thing? Do you think there's a certain kind of, older people who've never had to do it before and did it their way?
Yeah, I reckon. I mean, the poor old baby boomers have been coughing a bit lately around property prices and things like that. So I don't want to sound too ageist. Maybe. I mean, certainly I've got, our clients are incredibly diverse. And you reminded me reading my LinkedIn thing, I'm going to need to update it. We now have over 600 businesses. We're looking after 10,000 employees around the country.
Wow.
And so if I think of an age demographic, we have some older business owners who are amazing. And they're reaching an age where they're thinking about moving on. The retirement's coming, so they want to get this stuff right. So it's not actually, they're the opposite. They want good contracts, good policies, good processes in place, and because they're either looking at selling their business or handing it on to a family member so they can retire.
Yeah.
There certainly are some who are older, and they'll say to me, "Look, I've been in business 30 years. I've never had a problem. I don't believe in contracts. I just shake their hand, and if they're no good, I kick them up the backside and send them down the road." That might work for you, but there is a point at which it won't. I think, certainly I do see younger business owners have a greater understanding perhaps of this, because too, I think they have been employed under this framework.
Yes.
When they start a job, they expect a contract.
That's
so
what I was thinking, is the expectation would be different. It's a different,
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, I don't want to broad brush all older people, because it's certainly not the case. But there is an element of that, yeah. And I think too, in some industries, I've got to be honest, there's certain industries where it's just common that you don't have one. You just shake your hand and off you go, and you start the job,
Yeah.
But you got to do it, and it's so easy.
That's right. You get it. Well, that's a damn big fine to deal with as a small business. You really don't want to be going through dragged through employment court. Well, it's a time out to deal with stuff and stress levels.
It's massive. Yeah. When the labour inspector shows up and they give you their card, you're then required to provide them whatever they want, and that takes time. There's a lot of admin time there. They review and audit all of your files, your documents, your payroll, your holiday pay. There's a lot of toing and froing, so it takes a long time. And then when they find issues, there's a longer time of managing those issues. And just to be clear, it's 20K per employee. So famously, a couple of years ago, the Masala Indian restaurant chain was fined, I think, about 360K, because they had so many employees without signed agreements. I believe on appeal they got that reduced, but it was still over 100 grand, I think, the fine that they ended up. So, it's not just one fine of 20 grand. If you've got 5 staff and none of them have a signed agreement, you're potentially facing a $100,000 fine. So it's pretty serious.
And especially if it comes to a disgruntled employee, where the relationship is soured and it's not ending well. And they know that they understand that. They really.
Oh yeah, and in an argument situation like that, you have things that we call implied terms. So the employee can say, "Well, I never signed an agreement, but this is what I believe my benefits were, and this is what I expected, and this is how I would have expected a situation around performance management to be managed," and it creates ambiguity that you can just do without. Honestly, for 99% of employees, you sign the agreement, it goes in a file, and you never look at it again.
Yeah.
But a few times it happens. And so I think the challenge is not just talking about the pain of the fine, because a lot of people go, "Well, I've never been audited, and I know there's only 80 odd labour inspectors coming. They're hiring, there's 35 and they're on the way to getting to 80. They're never going to get to me kind of mentality. So it's not just the deterrent of the labour inspector, it's just the management of that employment relationship.
Yeah.
When things arise, the contract or the employment agreement gives you such a better framework to operate in.
Well, it's just clear expectations up front for both parties, so you both know what to expect from each other.
Totally. It looks professional, it looks slick, there's no reason why you shouldn't. I think there's nothing worse for a new person coming into a job when they've been there 3 weeks and they're saying, "I still don't have a contract. Where am I at? What's going on?" They've promised me I'm a new sales rep, I've been promised a company car, and I'm assuming I'm going to get it, but I'm not really sure if it's going to be a 1981 Corolla, or if it's going to be a 2017 Audi, where am I at, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it just creates a level of uncertainty and ambiguity you just don't understand. And it might be a young tradie or an apprentice. What's the deal with the tools? What am I paying for? What time out do I get to attend tech? And, all of these things there's no reason for them to be unclear.
Yeah.
Again, a good contract resolves all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So that segues nicely into performance.
Yeah, indeed.
Appraisals. Yeah.
I do a whole half-day training on this topic, so I'll try really hard to keep it.
I know it is huge.
Yeah. I think this idea, I think the question that we posed for this session was, are performance reviews really dead? And there are two types of performance management, and the names are a bit round the wrong way, I think. So performance review is generally the more positive, proactive process of catching up with people regularly to talk about their performance and hopefully reward them for good performance. Performance management is typically what's used to define disciplinary type processes. So you're underperforming, there's not a fixed schedule for it, we've just identified there's a problem, and so now we're bringing you to a meeting and we're talking to you about the issues, and we might be issuing a warning.
Yeah.
So today's topic was more around the performance review, the process of proactive performance management.
Right.
And partly I talk about this a lot because I genuinely believe that good reviews work. That's the headline. There have just been a lot of articles, and I come up against this regularly, about how performance reviews are dead. They're not cool anymore, nobody likes them, and they've sort of just run their course and died a natural death. What I tend to say is they haven't died a natural death at all, they've been murdered by corporate bureaucracy. Anybody who's worked in a large company will know what I'm talking about. You have these massive complex matrices of, competency matrix, you have 15 or 16 KPIs, and each one is individually weighted. The managers get an email at kind of the 1st of March from some angry HR person, and there's 16 attachments to the email saying, I need these back by the end of March. And then every week you get a slightly more aggressive email demanding the return of these reviews. And each attachment has 15 pages of stuff. I mean, there's nothing meaningful about that at all. You think when a manager has to sit down and talk to these 16 people to satisfy what the HR person's asking for, it's a checkbox exercise. If you have 16 KPIs and they're all percentage weighted, when you get to number 16 and it's worth 2.5% of your overall performance, nobody cares, And so this is the style of performance review that is well and truly dead.
Yeah.
And it's been replaced by something that's more dynamic and far more meaningful. And it leads into the third topic today, which is around technology. It's making use of technology to make performance reviews work. So the key thing to remember is a good performance review is a conversation.
Yeah.
You're talking to your people about how they are going. Performance reviews should be flexible, so we often try and fix them to the financial year, which for many businesses is totally fine, stick with that model. But if you have project teams, why not set your performance review to the project? If it's an 8-month project or it's an 18-month project and it spans a financial year, the team are focused on their project milestones. And it seems really arbitrary when an HR department says you must meet at the end of a financial year to talk about something, when the project manager is only a third of the way through the project. So there's nothing to sign off on.
Yeah.
You sign off when you've been. So use the technology and set reviews and reminders around that time frame for those people, whilst other people in your organisation might have a different time frame. And the same applies, this sounds like big business stuff, but it's not. The same applies to small companies. You've got a small engineering firm of 15 staff. You may have people on different production staff in a factory or warehouse, project management staff out doing installations and things. You can run it all quite differently. Sales reps are different again. You're running KPIs around sales metrics and targets. So keep them dynamic and flexible. 3 to 5 KPIs max. That's a real piece of solid advice. So these multitude of goals and KPIs are just ridiculous. KPIs or objectives or goals, whatever you want to call them, they're the things you need to do in your job that will add value to the business over and above your daily activities. So KPI is not turn up to work on time or be nice to the client. That's the stuff you get paid a salary to do.
Yeah.
The goals and the KPIs are those over and above things. For the sales rep, it's the revenue or profit targets. It's the prospecting targets. We talk about lead indicators and lag indicators. So the lag are the things that happen at the end. So sell $20,000 worth of product in a week. That's the outcome. The lead indicators are those inputs to that. So make 100 cold calls in a week or prospect this number of businesses. Similarly, with say project managers or software developers, there are lag and lead indicators. KPIs should be binary, really quite easy to measure.
Yeah.
The second part of your review are skills and competencies, and they are your softer things. That allows you to have these difficult conversations around attributes like teamwork and collaboration and communication skills. But you should be able to peg those to the KPIs. So there's an objective framework. It's not just your opinion.
Yes.
I don't think you're a very good communicator. You know, an employee is going to naturally kind of react to that. Whereas if you can say, well, look, we fell behind on this project by 3 months, and one of the issues was that the subcontractors really struggled with your communication style, and here's the feedback. You have a platform from which you're assessing that stuff. And again,
people need tangible, something tangible to actually hold on to go, oh, okay, so that what I did didn't work.
Totally.
Right. Invested in someone to grow, right? That's the biggest complaint I've had from most large organisations. What I've worked in personally is that, the whole 360 review from this person, that person, and the massive amounts of documents. And you can apply this logic and rationale to large and small businesses. For some reason, in large businesses, and I'll be a bit controversial here, as an ex-corporate HR manager, I feel I can say this, it's almost like HR teams looking for work for themselves. You know, let's implement a 360 review, let's implement an engagement survey, let's implement performance reviews. And, it just puts people off in the large corporates. But I think, too, it makes smaller businesses look over the fence and go, we don't need any of that. And in actual fact, you can get a lot of value out of these processes. Just don't do it like the corporates do. Yeah.
If you've got a company of 5 or 6 staff, if you've got a company of 15 to 18 staff, we've got lots of clients in that space. And their construction, their trade, their hospo, their retail, their professional services, their engineering, you name it. All of them can get some value from this. The value in a person that owns a couple of cafes putting some performance parameters around their cafe managers, or retailers putting some sales targets on their shop floor. Tradies who have grown beyond just, a couple of guys in a van to running a few different jobs. You'll have supervisors there, regular catch-ups, regular check-ins, a performance management framework that is just structured and organised is massively valuable and really easy to implement. So, I don't think performance reviews are dead. I think there's a new style of them, and it's about focusing on that conversation, having regular check-ins, keeping them simple.
Yeah. And from the businesses I've worked with over the last 14 years, what I've noticed around that side of things is when, I start documenting stuff, and I notice there's some gaps, and I get an HR person to sort that out, making sure it's done properly. There's a fear, and there's also a lack of skills, not knowing how to be a leader and how to, encourage someone and mentor them and coach them and be, and have the time to step outside. There's a real fear around how to do that right. And so that's what you said, you do a little bit of help around with them, classes and stuff. Is that what you said? Or?
Yeah, totally. We do this for our clients. I've sort of avoided making any kind of pitch here, but our role, the role of MyHr and what I've created is essentially an outsourced HR department.
Yeah.
So we provide a service that's like consultancy, but without the price tag. And we've done that by creating a software platform that's ours. We own it. We don't license anything, so we can do what we like with it. It's very useful, very intuitive, very easy to use. It covers performance reviews, lead management, document storage, file notes, reminders, notifications, all the good stuff you'd expect from good HR software. But it plugs into a team of professionals, which is really important. And we don't charge extra for those professionals. It's part of the software license, which means our clients phone us all the time and talk about things like this. How do I implement a new performance review program for my sales team? Can I get some help with this disciplinary process, that kind of thing. So it's very tailored, very bespoke type service. And really diverse. Our smallest client has 1 employee and our largest has 1,400. So, from large to small organisations, we've got a lot around that sort of 20 to 80 space. That's probably an area of interest. We do that. We run training to help people understand this stuff. And like I say, I see real positive outcomes when performance reviews are done well.
I agree. I've been on both sides of the camps of a really bad performance review. Somebody didn't even know my real name.
Yeah, right. How good. Not uncommon.
Going, and you've just written a report about me?
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Mary. It's great to see you today. How are you going? I'm Fiona.
It instills huge confidence.
Yeah.
So, I think the world, like talking about technology as well, like back into that topic, is I think the way that we do business is changing, whereas before I think, say 20, 15 years, maybe even 10, you'd expect to have to go and employ an HR person, employ a marketing person as your business grows.
Mm.
Seems like there's a lot more the ability to just tap into specialised services and have that support. And the benefit of being able to do that is that, you've got a business there. So if that person, left, you've still got the business supporting you with all the documents and all the information about you. So you don't have to go through the hire process and the worry about, retraining that person. You've got actually, you've got that sorted really. And in a lot of areas, and not just HR, I've seen it with marketing and, the kind of work that I do as well. So I think the future, the way we do business, I think it's shifting, and it makes it a lot easier for a small business to grow faster.
Yes, I completely agree. And this is the third topic around technology. And I think one of the things I observe is people tend to dismiss it a little bit because the technology conversation very quickly ends up with AI and robots and these sorts of things. And it sounds quite sci-fi. And so everyone just goes, oh, well, that's the future. That's coming. It doesn't concern me. I'm just trying to run my business. I employ 8 people and I run a sign writing company in West Auckland. I don't care about robots and AI. It's actually not, it's not this big stuff about the self-driving cars and the artificial intelligence. Yes, that's coming. But it's right now, the technology that helps you, it's the simple things. It's the things that are already integrated in your life that you maybe haven't really clocked. Like the fact that there are no bank branches around anymore. Everyone banks online. That's just an example of it. And for HR, from my field, and this is why I'm so passionate about technology and human resources, because I think we're lagging behind terribly. And accountants who are traditionally the stereotype of conservative people who don't like change, they figured this out a long time ago. Accounting packages, whether you go back to, was it J.D. Edwards in the old days, and then there was Sage and SAP, and now you've got Xero and MYOB and Intuit, and they've figured out that there's so much of what they do that's transactional that you don't need a big leather-bound ledger with a green, a red, and a black, and a blue pen and a ruler. You need a piece of software, and it will take care of that stuff. Similarly with HR, often employment in HR software goes some way to automating process, but it doesn't go all the way. And, things like you should never have to write an employment agreement again. You should never have to print an employment agreement and sign it in paper. You sign it online. Getting access to professional services using technology, it's here now. It's what we're doing. It's what payroll companies do when they run your payroll for you. This is the stuff that's now that if you implement, you can do. And so many people still run a manual payroll. If they've got 3 or 4 staff, they figure that's the easiest way. It's still quite risky. And for about $20 a month, you can go and get a payroll company to do that for you. As you pointed out around marketing, you can implement some really good quality software that will help you run a very, very basic marketing campaign with some, EDM, email direct marketing and that sort of thing. And you can engage a professional to help you get that going as you need them without needing to employ that person. And the same exists in human resources. So what we've got here and what we're sitting on, which is pretty exciting with these 10,000 Kiwi employees, we just focus on New Zealand in our system, is we've got really rich data and information now on the New Zealand workforce. We're producing around 200 to 300 employment agreements a week. We're running around 2,500 to 3,000 performance reviews, and we do 18 or so disciplinaries a week. I don't know if it's a good stat or not. We're running 7 to 8 restructures in any given week. So we're talking about high volume support for human resources and employment law, and we do that and we can deliver that only because we have the technology to support us.
Yeah.
Starting out in a business of any, even at 50 or 60 staff, looking at the cost of employing people in-house to cover HR, admin, advisory, and management levels is just, it's cost prohibitive. You need some external support. And we've done that through technology, and it means we don't have to bill the consultancy rates of $200 an hour. It means there's a software license and a team available to help. And tech is the key to that. I'm really, really passionate about this. I think, artificial intelligence, I think machine learning, these things are with us and they are just getting better. But I encourage business owners to look at available tech, not to dismiss it on the basis that we're not yet in self-drive cars with robots making our coffee. It's about the stuff that's available today, and there's a lot of really cool technology, and it's just getting better.
And I think as drop the fear and play, actually just for me, I'm an early adopter for technology, and that's driven my business strongly. And I think if you have the ability to just play with something and go into a childlike state of wonder, you'll start noticing, and start looking for connections. So this is fun to do. How could it relate to my business? How could it serve my team, serve my business, serve my staff? What opportunities could come out of that? So yeah, just staying in a playful state will really help you, I think, in business. And if you
I completely agree.
It'll be at your peril, right?
Totally agree, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
And, technology will reduce overhead, and this is where it becomes a competitive advantage, because good tech ultimately would and should reduce overhead. So if it's not, assess it. But when it does, it frees up cash. The less you spend in other areas, the more you have. So it becomes a source of competitive advantage. So if you're the one lagging behind in tech, your competitors will quickly sort of race ahead as they realise they may not have to carry, excessive salary overhead, and they can outsource some of these services and use good software to help out.
Yeah.
That frees up money for other things, for marketing activities, for buying new equipment, for improving services, for price reductions, you name it. And so you then put a more competitive offer in the market.
Well, it allows me to be more innovative. I used to have to spend a fortune on Photoshop and design and all those, online tools, huge amounts of money for software. I now use Canva, and it costs me $150 a year.
Yeah, right. Quite incredible.
And I used to pay $700 14 years ago just for one license. It's like, it blows your mind, right?
I just think, not to sort of plug any individual software, but for the world of accounting software, I came out of corporate, so I had an environment where if I needed information, I'd just ring a business analyst and go, hey mate, can you get me this report by Friday, please? And it would just happen in the black art of the dark art area of the finance department. As a small business owner, I started out with one employee. At this time last year, I had 3, and now I've got 14. So we're growing pretty quickly. But I'm still a small business at 14 staff. I can't afford a business analyst, and my accountant is very good and great with compliance. But if I need a report for my board, or I need to have a look at how revenue is tracking, I just push the button on my software and it tells me. It's magic. It's as good as what I used to get from my corporate business analyst, because it's all there. How we're tracking to budget, what we're making, are we ahead of target, behind target, on target, how are expenses looking, and capital expenditure, CapEx versus OpEx. It's all there. It's easy. You push a button and it delivers it to you. It's phenomenally powerful.
Cool. Jason, tell me, if you could go back in time to when you first started to start your business, what one piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a tricky question, hey? I think, when you start a business, as everybody knows, especially when you do what we did, which is quite different, we don't have our competitive environment is incredibly fragmented. So we have lots of competitors, but no one that does exactly what we do.
Yeah.
So when you start with something that's quite new, you've got to have a lot of belief. So I think I had belief because I stuck at it and made it work. But I think if I look back, I'd probably sit myself down and go, it's okay, this is going to work. It's a good idea. Back yourself. And ultimately, I guess I did, but I probably could have been a little more pushy in the early days, going, no, hang on a minute, this is good, it's going to work. And it's a confidence thing. You reflect back and you go, man, I don't know what I was worried about.
Yeah.
And people around me were saying that at the time. They were going, this is crazy, look at what you've done, it's a great business and it will go off. And now that it is going off, I can look back on that. But I give myself a bit of a shake and say, come on, mate, you're okay here, this is going to go big.
Self-doubt's the biggest thing when you're starting out. It's flying solo in your own, it's you in front of the world, standing on stage.
And it's a lonely place. Yeah, exactly.
It's very lonely. And I just signed up as a business mentor, and I just had a conversation with the woman I'm coaching who's just starting out. She goes, it's just so lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I keep having self-doubt. And I went, you're in the perfect spot right now. It's cool.
Yeah. Totally right. Cool. I'd never change it. I couldn't go back. I've done my 15 odd years of corporate, and I'm now MyHr is about to turn 5. So, I'm not going anywhere. I'm having a blast.
Cool. So, Jason, tell me, if people want to look at outsourcing to MyHr, where's the best place for them to start?
Best place is on our site, honestly, myhr.co.nz, and and a couple of reasons for that, because everything's there, easily summarised. Our contact details are there, including my mobile. I still keep an open door. I talk to anyone. It's part of who I am. I'm a natural extrovert, so ring me up and have a chat. Drop me an email. The email address is there. Or ring my office and talk to my awesome team. You can set up a trial in the software, and trials are good. And you have to, in my game, you have to have trial software to, because everybody does. The reality is often people don't get the time to use it properly. So when you start a trial account, we will actually reach out and give you a call and have a chat, because it's more than just the software. So yeah, myhr.co.nz. The thing I'd encourage you to do as well is there's a resources and blogs section on that, and we give away stuff just to help business owners. And you can access this without being a client of MyHr. And those are things like restructure guides, how to run a disciplinary process, 90-day trial periods, which we may have to change depending on the law, interview guides, interview questions for hiring your first sales rep, and these are things that are designed to be useful. They're not hypothetical. It's take this tool and implement it in your business. It's free. Go for it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's great.
Blogs and guidance around things like this minimum wage increase. So it will keep you up to date with law change, with best practice in HR, and it will give you some free stuff to help you run your business. So yeah, that's all on the site.
That's awesome, Jason. Hey, thank you for taking the time for coming to talk to me and to the watchers of the Business Made Easy show. I've learned lots of interesting little tidbits that I know that I'm going to be looking forward as I go through this year and I get back into having a team again, which is very exciting. Yeah, it's very cool. And yeah, if anyone wants to go and check out MyHr and try their free trial, I will make sure that the link is in the show notes for you. And
awesome, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate it, Fiona.
Awesome. Okay.